So the first area we're going to go into is going to be our patrons management. Not too many questions we had over here, but something that I would like to address was a question along the lines of auto adding your patron barcode number. So your barcodes are that unique identifying number, their library number. And we recently added some shadow text there. So when you are adding new patrons, if you want Alexandria to assign a barcode number for you, go ahead and just leave this field here blank, and then Alexandria will assign that. With that being said, we can revert over here, and in case you wanted to change the default starting number for your patron barcodes, that is going to be over here in your preferences. And then under patrons, and you'll see that next barcode. So you are able to assign what you would like Alexandria to use. One thing I will mention though is we don't necessarily suggest that you have them matching with your item barcode, so just something to keep in mind. I do think I saw a few questions. Okay, let's go ahead and since that was the only question I guess that we got for our patrons, we're going to jump over to our items. So a few things over here. Number one, we did have some questions coming in about adding your cover art. So a few things with that is number one, I would just make sure that you have an ISBN listed. That way Alexandria is able to look for cover art for you. That's also going to be over here in your preferences and under the items preferences and cover art. You'll just want to make sure that this is checked and that you do have that ISBN listed. Now, if you do need to add your own cover art, the easiest thing to do is making sure that we are unlocked. And then you'll notice that once I highlight or I go over here, you'll have a little plus sign. We will be adding the functionality to be able to copy and paste, so keep an eye out on that. If you're not already signed up for our release notes emails, I would suggest signing up for those. Or once we have new release notes, you can also view them right over here in your message drawer. You'll see a little red dot there letting me know there's something new for me to view. And we will have those release notes listed here as well. So once that functionality has been added to copy and paste, you will be able to see that over here in the release notes. We also had a few questions about merging your titles, and there's going to be a couple different ways to do that. Number one is you'll notice over here I have two copies or two titles, excuse me, of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. What you're going to want to do is find the copy or the title that you want to keep. In my case, because I only have one over here, and then this you'll notice has two different copies, I'll go ahead and just keep the one with two. And you can either, making sure this is unlocked, move copies to this title, or we can just merge our titles. So by clicking merge titles, and then I will do a search here. Oops. Here we go. And I will select the one I want to merge and we'll click OK. Alexandria will ask me if I'm sure, so I can go ahead and say yes, merge. And as easy as that. Now I only have the one title with my different copies in here. You'll see if I kind of refresh there, now it says that I have three. We also had a few questions about teaching books. So really quickly, I will just mention if you have teaching books available to you, that is included in an add-on of ours. So for any questions or if that's something you would like to use within Alexandria or to have that, then you'll just want to contact your account executive. If you're not sure who that is, you can always give us a call and we can make sure to point you to the right person. Sorry, just taking a quick look over here. I do have a great question over from Angie. Will the checked out copies still merge? And I did not test that, to be honest. So let's go ahead and we can take a look at that together. Let me go to trying to think of a checked out book. Or if Myra, if you know, maybe you can answer that question for me.
I want to say that it will, but I'd have to double check that because it should be able to.
That's what I thought as well. I just don't necessarily want to say yes unless I'm positive. Let's see here. We have a book that's checked out, and we're just going to merge it. We can test this together. We are going to merge this one here. So it looks like it will still merge. And then I did see a question about doing that again. So in case I moved a little too quickly, all you'll want to do is make sure you find the title that you want to keep. And then under your actions menu with your title unlocked, you can go to merge titles and then search for the title and then merge. And then really quickly, just while we're here still under our items management, I wanted to take a look. Okay, from Susan, when you merge copies, how does Alex keep track of separate types of copies or ISBNs? So when you are merging those, Alexandria will list the ISBNs all together. So as of right here, you'll only see one, but if you go into your mark view, you will show the different ISBNs. So it will still keep track of those for you. Okay, sorry, I just wanted to take a look here. From Katrina, when you're merging, do you have your different prices? So with that, in your copies, you only have the actual copy price. So if I had multiple, let's say this one here is a hard cover versus a paperback, you are going to want to specifically say what that purchase or replacement cost is. And then because that is copy specific, you would have the two different ones. And then from an anonymous attendee, is there a way to merge your genres? So, similar to the ISBN, you can keep track of those different genres while you only have one listed right here, or what I guess is being displayed. The actual mark record itself will keep track of those. So, you are able to have those different genres, just the main one will only show one right here, but if I go into Mark View, I would be able to see multiple. Let's see, just want to make sure we don't move on from our items. Great tip here for Mary. If you download the mark records from Melcat, the cover art comes with them. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay, if you have two or more copies and you only want to delete one of them. Great question, Sherry. If you have copies that you want to delete, just by coming over here into your copies tab, you will want to make sure your copies window is unlocked. And then to delete one, you'll just select the barcode that you want to remove and then use this minus sign down here at the bottom. Of course, you also have the option of using your discard mode in the circulation screen. So more if you wanted to keep track of that item, run a report maybe at the end of the year to see everything that you've discarded, then I would do it through circulation. However, if I just wanted to completely remove this, get it out of the system, then using that minus sign down here at the bottom and then confirming that removal. And then you'll see my little, oops, my little confirmation down here at the bottom. Okay, just before we move on. So we do have quite a bit of questions specifically for our reports. We will go through those. So from an anonymous attendee, what would we be looking at for the ISBN once they're merged? So the ISBN that's going to be shown on the default for your patrons will be what's listed here. However, they are able to, in the researcher, look at the full mark record, so they would be able to see multiple. So, depending on how you have your patrons searching, it will just kind of depend on what's on that front end. Okay, so it looks like that was it for our items. Let's go ahead and jump over to our circulation, which nice and easy. We do just have one question here so far about how you can mark items as lost. The way that we suggest is keeping the item checked out to the patron if it was lost from a patron. And let me bring up someone here. And so, because I want Alexandria to keep track of this lost item, and in my case, I would say because Dan lost it, we can go to our items out tab and then select the item that you want to mark lost. So, in my case, I'll just go ahead and select Avalon High here, click declare lost. We will confirm. And so by doing this, Alexandra is going to automatically charge a lost fee, which is going to be the replacement cost of that item. So whatever you had in your copies tab is going to be charged. So from here, I can either make a payment or forgive if that's not something that my library does, or to just keep that in place. I won't add anything and I will process. This was an overdue item, so it's also going to be charging the overdue fine. In my case, we'll go ahead and just forgive that one there. So you'll see Avalon High now says that it's lost. If I run a report, I'll be able to see that it was lost today from Dan. And if we clear out our screen, just using our X command here, and let's say it's been a few weeks. So I can then book drop my item. It was found and returned to my library. I would check that in normally. Alexandria will ask me, has this been found? Do I want to process it? I can say yes. And then because it was found, now more of your internal processes of, well, are we forgiving my charge? If there was a payment made, do I need to process a refund? Kind of more of that like internal. But we'll go ahead and say we'll forgive the charge because I'm just happy my book's back. Add any notes that I might want and process. And you'll see that is now back in an available status. I'm gonna take a look over here. It looks like most of our questions are going to be for our reports. It looks like we don't have any other questions here about circulation. If you do have any questions about circulation specifically, let me know.
Real quick, there was one about that X command. Can you show that again?
Yep, I just saw that. Thank you. So the X command is pretty much just clearing out your screen. It's like a reset. We have a list here, over here in command help, but if you have any questions specifically about different commands that you might be looking for, our support team is really great about finding those for you. Or even on our support center, I'll show you over here if we go to our main page and our get started area. Let me find the one I'm looking for over here under resources. We have a PDF that has a ton of the most helpful little commands. So something that can be helpful by, here we go. So a bunch of these commands letting you know what they're used for. Of course, if you want us to send this to you, you can let us know or contact our support team. They'd be able to point you in the right direction there too. So the X command is pretty much just like I mentioned, the reset of this window. So you'll notice that I have a patron and item pulled up. I'm also in book drop mode. So if I type that X and enter, you'll see it puts me back into my checkout mode, and then it cleared out that patron and item. And then from Jennifer here for other sounds, that is, I'll tie it into my circulation since you are talking about checked out or lost. You are able to customize your sounds by going to your preferences and then sounds right here. So depending on what you're looking for, kind of those different sounds for different processes, you're able to customize here. And then from Anna is there an X command you can use for your items tab? Maybe you can give me a little bit more information, kind of what you're looking for. If you're specifically meaning over here in your items management, there's not a specific command over here to clear this out. You would just want to either reset, you can do a different search. But if that's not what you meant, let me know and I can answer better. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to jump into our bulk area, which is going to be operations. So this is going to be the newer area. So in your operations, this is going to be one where you go to retrieve any reports or exports that you've run. Also, you can view different utilities, things along those lines, and then where you're actually going to go to run them. We have three different report areas. You're going to have just reports, and this is going to be more of like informational base. I need a list of items that are currently checked out, things along those lines. You have your labels. So if I need to print library cards or barcode labels, spine labels, that's all going to be here. And then your notices are for I'm actually contacting or I need to give something to my patrons, whether that is sending an email for overdue items, maybe things that are coming due or things that they have currently checked out. Okay. Let's start with our reports up here at the top. On your left-hand side, you're going to have a list of your saved reports. So this is going to be reports that you've actually created because they're the most helpful for you. To add a new report, we will click Add Report or our plus sign. And one of the reports that I had mentioned was seeing things that have been checked, or excuse me, that were added within a specific date range. That would be under our titles or copies, depending on what type of information you'd like. I'll go ahead and use our copies. All of our reports will have a little bit of a description, and then you can also turn on your previews to see the information before actually running the report. I'll use our copy information because I just want to see what copies have been added and create. Any specific customization here. So if I want to give this a different name, add any notes that might be helpful for me to remember. Right down here, I can see those different examples as well of my formats. If you are in a centralized catalog, you can share this with other people or other librarians that have your Alexandria that are sharing. And then for this one here, we can go ahead and use our copies added either a date range, or I can even change this to be a relative date. So this past year, this past week, depending on what I'm looking for. But that's going to be the most helpful right over here. On my options, another area where I can change my format, as well as how do I want this to be sorted. To run this right now, I can go ahead and click run. Because I haven't saved it just yet, it is going to ask me if I would like to save. So I can go ahead and click save and run. Or if I wanted to run this later, I just want to make sure that it's in my list, I can click save without having to run it right now. Another report that someone had a question on is going to be seeing what you have removed. If you have used the discard mode, Then we can go ahead and run a discarded copies report. If I went through and removed my copies with that minus sign, like I showed you a little bit ago, then unfortunately the item is no longer in Alexandria, so I'm not able to see it. So if that is something you would like, go ahead and use your discard mode. And then to see the report, it would be under your copies. We can even narrow that down to your special status and then your discarded copies here. And here's an example. Let's go ahead and take a look at our questions. Okay, from Denisha, how to run an overdue items. That is going to be dependent on, do you want to show this to your patrons? Is this something that you're going to email them or even print out a slip? Or if it's just that list format, we can stay here under our reports. And that's going to be under our circulation category. And right over here, we have that overdue items information. So depending on what you want to show, this is going to be the report for you. Sorry, just taking a look here. Top checked out book. Great question, Becky. So if you're wanting to see your top circulated items, that is going to be over here in our reports. I'm going to turn off these preview sumai. Right down here, we have that top circulated titles. You are able to narrow this down as well as put in a date range to see specifically, was it just the top circulated for this month or this year? So nice and handy over here. Okay, I think now our other reports are going to go into our notices. So let's take a look here. All right, let's go ahead and we can revert our top circulated and pop back over to our operations. For our labels, depending on what kind of label you're looking for, whether that is a library card or different patron labels, as well as I mentioned earlier, those spine labels, you are going to find those here. We can add a label. Under our patrons, there's the library cards. These will also have your previews depending on what it is that you're looking for. Let me make sure I'm not missing any label specific ones. I know someone had mentioned library cards, but I think that was the only one that I saw there. We do have a couple questions that aren't for our labels. Let me go ahead and we're going to pop back over to our reports here in just one moment to answer those. For your operations and labels, Anna, if you're getting little pop up messages, I would suggest either turning off your tutorials, and you can do that over here under your user menu if that's the type of message you're getting. But under your user settings, you should be able to turn those off there. Or sometimes if you have that little welcome message, there should be a little message to not show. So I would take a look at both of those. Great question here from Megan, wanting to see the usage for your report. So let's come over here back to our main report window. And depending on if you're wanting to see that for a specific year or just basic usage, under our categories here, you can either use statistics and usage depending on what you're looking for. One of our reports, so that I think is the most helpful, is going to be this usage by period. So if I'm just wanting to see more specifics of this is how many items were checked out versus the actual copy checkouts, then the usage by period will kind of give you that basic statistic information. Here we go. And then can I run a usage report by location? If you are using your copy location, David, there are a few different ways you're able to run those. Again, kind of depending specifically what you're looking for, but most of your usage reports you should be able to narrow down by your location. Okay. Denisha, is there a way to show the last time books were checked out? Yes. So if you're wanting to just see the last usage date, personally, I would show, or I would run, excuse me, the weeding list. So this will have the last use date as well as the life to date usage. That's that LTD. So if you're just wanting to see, yeah, when was this last checked out, I would personally run the weeding list by copy report. And then if you're wanting to see more history, if you're just wanting to see who checked out a specific item, you could do that right from your circulation screen. Let's pop back over here, excuse me. If you look at your statistics, it will show the last 5 checkouts right underneath down here. So if you're just wanting to see who had it out last, this is going to be the quickest way. Okay. Let's go ahead and we'll close out of here and go back into our operations and talk about some notices. So a few people had questions about, I want to set up emails to send for overdues. That's going to be here in your notices. We can unlock and add a notice. And right down here, we have our overdue items notice. Create. So a few different ways you can run this. Specifically, if you are looking to send emails though, we can select our email format. If you want this to be sent on a schedule, so something you don't even have to worry about running, you are able to schedule. We can say weekly, on Fridays at 5 p.m. Now, if you're going to be scheduling this, something else I would suggest is also clicking this notify and putting your email address in this send notification to field. Mainly so that way you're able to get that notification that this did run, because if you're not getting that notification, then you would want to double check how your report is set up, or even check out your email settings just to make sure that everything is set up correctly so that you're able to get those as well. On your selection, who am I wanting to send this to? If I just want it to be anyone that has an overdue item, I can leave my selections as they are. And then on my options, I have an option here when I'm on that email format to send to the primary or both primary and other emails. Any customization that I want on my email can go right down here in your notice text, as well as including cover art. One thing I will also mention here, let's go ahead and click save. With that primary and other emails, that's going to tie into specifically our patrons. Let's bring up a patron here. On the contact tab, you'll see I have those two different fields. So you have just the one primary, and then you can have up to 5 other emails separated only with commas, no spaces. And then to send those emails, a few other areas that I will mention is one, if I go to my tools and sites, I will need to make sure that I have an email listed right here. This is going to be the return address. And then in my preferences and setup, we also have our email set up here. So depending on how you're going to be sending emails, you can either configure your own email server, you can use our add-on, our integrated emails, or if you are using Gmail, you can connect down here at the bottom. Okay, overdue notices. Okay, from Anna, label question. So let's take a look here. So Anna, great question about your labels. So because you're generally going to be running those labels only once, because hopefully you shouldn't have to replace them too often. But one thing I would suggest, because you are able to save or revert, but you'll notice over here that I have different labels already saved. So what I can do is just come over here and then I would make my selections at that time. So it's still saved. Any customization that I wanted, maybe for what's printed over here in my options, that's saved so I don't have to worry about redoing it. And then I would come in and make any of my selections. So is it just for items that I created today? Or you'll notice that I have that relative date, which usually for my labels, I would suggest having that relative date. It makes it a little quicker for you. But you also have your copies with barcodes if you were looking for more specific barcodes. So I would suggest saving it. And then just depending on what you're looking for, make those changes when you're actually trying to print them off. And then Megan, for scheduling overdue notices, you are able to still put that on a schedule and then print them off when you'd like. It doesn't have to be the email. So over here, if we pop back over to my overdue items notice, depending on what I'm looking for, so at 2 per page, 4 per page, excuse me, or the letters, and then on your overview, you can still have that run on a schedule. Another thing you're able to do if you don't want to actually have them email, but you want them to go directly to you, is you can still check this notify box. And you'll notice that we have this send notification and download link. So if you want those to go directly to your email and then you just print them off rather than having to come to Alexandria first, you can do that as well. Perfect. Let's pop over here to our utilities. We did have a question about changing the prefix of your call numbers. So that is going to be part of your utilities. You'll notice that this looks very similar to our other operations. So if we add a new utility, you can either do this for titles or copies, depending on what you're changing. But over here in my titles, you'll see I have change title call number, create. On my selections, what am I changing this for? And then specifically on your options is where you're going to go ahead and make those specific changes. So am I adding a prefix, removing, replacing? And then right down here is where I would actually put that information. We'll save that here. Okay, and then from Becky, how can I mass remove any information in the homeroom field from your student accounts? Usually, if you are wanting to do it in a big batch, you could use your utilities and then let's click our plus sign over here. And under our patrons, we have the change patron homeroom. Who are you wanting to modify that for under your selections? And then in your options, I think the easiest thing to do would just put a little space in here and then it will go through and remove those for you. You could also do an import if you were wanting to create an import file. You could do it that way, but I think this would be a little quicker. Let's revert here. And then the last little area that we were going to talk about just really quickly is in our operations. We did have a few questions for people wanting to run a report that would be in an Excel file rather than a PDF. So rather than running one of your reports, you're actually going to want to do what we call just an export. And then what information you're looking for, if it is for like charges, you have your export patron fines. This will put it in a text file that you're then able to open that up within Excel. Okay, so that was all the questions that I had. Let's go ahead and if anyone else has any questions, I know we have about 10 minutes left of our scheduled time. So please let me know if there's anything else you would like to see. Great question, David. Can you edit the list of locations in location? Yes. So for that, what I would suggest is actually coming over here. So I got to move Zoom over. There we go. Under your tools, you have what we call authority control. This is going to be those different types of fields, such as location. So you'll see right over here, we have a copy location. And then to make any of those changes, you would come in and select what you want to edit. Maybe there's a misspelling. And then by changing it here, it will actually go through any of the records that have that location already, and it will update them to whatever you've modified. If you were wanting to just remove them, you can also come to your actions and remove unused terms. So that way, if you've already cleaned them up, let's say in the actual copy records, then this would just go through and remove it from the list because it's not in use. Can I show how to build a map? So, Jenny, the maps themselves are something that you would create, let's say, on like Paint, or you could even take pictures. In Alexandria, you would just be actually adding those images, and that's under your builder and maps. We'll skip through those, but you'll notice that I just have my call number ranges so that Alexandria actually knows if it falls into this call number range, then I show this specific image. So the actual creating of the maps would be done on your end. Like I said, either taking a picture or drawing. From an anonymous attendee, turning off the wait list. I believe that might be the holds. If you're not talking about holds, please let me know. If you don't want your patrons to be able to add a hold, what you can do is right over here under our builder and find here. course, as soon as I'm put on the spot, I can't remember where it is. Oh, there we go. I was just too far down. So you're able to turn off your holds from here. So just builder, searching, and then holds. And that should make it so that they're not able to place them. For the maps, you would just upload it right over here. So I could drag and drop it in here or just use my little plus sign. Okay, and then from Kathy, how to print one student barcode versus a whole class. So that's going to be back over in our labels. And with your patron labels, let's go to patrons. Depending on what I'm looking for, I can do library cards or just the 3x10s. We'll choose library cards for this one. Under your selections versus wanting to do like a homeroom, if I just need it for one person, click show additional. And then at the very bottom, you're going to have patrons with barcodes. So I could put in my one patron barcode number in here or however many I need to just print those ones off specifically. Um, for Alexandria requiring you to sign in after running a report, it could be that it was a different tab that opened. If that's something that you're seeing, though, definitely give us a call so we can take a look at your Alexandria with you. And then, Michelle, if you could give me a little more information specifically what you mean with the permanent lists in search, I would love to answer your question. I just think I need a little bit more information about what you mean. And then Kathy, if you are wanting to print off the one barcode, you'll just want to type in their specific barcode number right down here in the patrons with barcodes. All right, everyone, we have just a few more minutes. Okay, thank you, Michelle, for the clarification. If you are wanting to create like a reading list within your researcher, let's pop over there. I'm gonna go to my researchers, search. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do is log in. Oh, looks like I'm already logged in with my demo. Let's log out so I can show you what that'll look like. Here we go. So I would sign in and then to create a list, I'll just look for cats. You'll see right over here, I have my lists and then you would create a saved list. We can give it a name. Make it easy. How do you want that to be shared? We'll say public, save. And then with that, I could then add any of my lists or any of my results, excuse me. All right. One more minute left, everyone. Do we have any other questions that we want to answer? Okay, so I'm not seeing anything else come in just yet. So hopefully everyone's feeling a little bit more comfortable. Oh, yeah. So, Jennifer, with the teaching books, that is part of an add on that we have. So, if that's something you want to use with Alexandria, you're just going to speak to your account executive and they'll be able to give you some more information about that integration. If you're having any issues with your smart search here in Researcher, definitely give us a call so we can take a look with you specifically at your Alexandria database. Um, just so that way we're able to either sign in with you or maybe set up a Zoom call. And Diana, over here, I'll pull up our support information again. Just so that way you're able to see our contact info. You're very welcome. And thank you, everyone, for joining me. I hope you're feeling a little more comfortable. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to help you out. All right, bye bye, everyone. Have a lovely rest of your day.